All right. All right, Rob, if we'll start off with the third step prayer, sir. Thank you.
You got it, Leo. Hi, everybody. Rob K, recovered alcoholic, and we're going to all be reading the third step prayer, which is on page 63 of your big book. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always.
Excellent, Rob. Okay. Well, as we've said a couple of times here in the beginning, we are on page 81, and we're down at the bottom, but we're going to start at the midway point in the page. Rob, if you'll go ahead and get started, and then we'll jump into it from there.
You got it. Whatever the situation, we usually have to do something about it. If we are sure our wife does not know, should we tell her? Not always, we think. If she knows in a general way that we have been wild, should we tell her in detail? Undoubtedly, we should admit our own fault. She may insist on knowing all the particulars. She will want to know who the woman is and where she is. We feel we ought to say to her that we have no right to involve another person. We are sorry for what we have done, and God willing, it shall not be repeated. More than that, we cannot do. We have no right to go further. Though there may be justifiable exceptions, and though we wish to lay down no rule of any sort, we have often found this the best course to take.
Well, obviously, that is a very sensitive topic and situation. It's an amend that is one of those that you want to be totally prepared for, and I think it's one that has to go with a lot of patience and understanding. I can only imagine that that is a difficult, one of the more difficult situations that you might be situated in with regard to other people. I'll kind of let it go at that. It's pretty straightforward, and I think it's also just one of the things that they say at the very end there is that you must more than that we cannot do. We have no right to go further. So just keep that in mind as you're kind of going along with this and the amends that you're making, especially one as sensitive and as difficult as this one would be. Okay, Rob?
Yeah, I just want to read step 9. May direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Remember, we keep that in mind. Our design for living is not a one-way street. It is as good for the wife as for the husband. If we can forget, so can she. It is better, however, that one does not needlessly name a person upon whom she can vent jealousy.
Yeah, again, this is just a continuation here as far as that's concerned. Again, it's going to be situation dependent, and it's going to be up to the two individuals involved in this particular amend and discussion, either way, whichever way it's going. And I think that more importantly, maybe it's the forgive that we're looking for more than anything else than we are really for the forget. But we also don't want this to fester and drag out over a long period of time. The more honest, open, and direct that you can be about everything, the better. Rob?
Perhaps there are some cases where the utmost frankness is demanded. No outsider can appraise such an intimate situation. And maybe that both will decide that the way of good sense and loving kindness is to let bygone be bygone. Each might pray about it, having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind. Keep it always in sight that we are dealing with that most terrible human emotion, jealousy. Good generalship may decide that the problem be attacked on the flank rather than risk a face-to-face combat.
Yeah, and this is, I think, the important thing here. Each might pray about it and having the other one's happiness uppermost in mind. If there is a good grounding and a good base or foundation with regard to the relationship, then it probably will withstand and be able to endure something of this nature. And as long as you've got the good intentions of one ceasing and desisting of what you're doing, as well as wanting to continue going forward with the person that you're talking to, I think all the better. But I do believe that this is one that takes some really strong praying and loving kindness, as they put it, to maneuver through. Rob?
Yeah, remember we read on page 74, there was a must on page 74 that said that the rule is we must be hard on ourselves, but considerate of others. Remember, it's our inventory. We are the ones that are taking it. We are hard on ourselves, not on other people. If we have no such complication, there is plenty we should do at home. Sometimes we hear an alcoholic say that the only thing he needs to do is to keep sober. Certainly he must keep sober, for there will be no home if he doesn't. But he is yet a long way from making good to the wife or parents whom for years he has so shockingly treated. Passing all understanding is the patient mothers and wives who have had to deal with alcoholics. Had this not been so, many of us would have no homes today, would perhaps be dead.
Yeah, there's a bit of seriousness with this, and I think that there is kind of the short-sighted kind of idea of first and foremost, that you want to be sober. Absolutely, there's no question that that is the goal here, is sobriety. But this is a way of life. If you remember, we're talking about things here that are in general everyday situations that you're going to face regardless of whether or not you've been drinking or not. And even if you haven't been drinking, life still is going to throw curveballs at you. So it is around taking that prayer, taking the morning meditation, and really kind of thinking about what is the next right thing to do. What am I going to do today? What would you have me do today? The maneuvering through the day and trying to take the other person's interests and needs in mind, and wanting to make sure that you're addressing and identifying with those. And then in the evening, looking back on your day and trying to find places where you could have done better, and maybe places where you did do really well and want to try to capitalize on that and repeat it. And that's kind of the idea here, is this kind of a way of life, is that you take what you did to find that innermost strength, that higher power to give you what you needed in order to stop drinking. And you take that and you apply it across your entire life, everything that you're doing. And that's really what we're trying to do here, is talk about that, and don't feel like that just because you've stopped drinking that you've got everything licked. You've made great strides, don't get me wrong. It's an amazing achievement to be able to have been able to stop drinking and stay stopped. But it is that graduate level way of living that you kind of maneuver to once you've stopped drinking. Rob?
We're at the near the bottom of page 82 for those that just joined us. The alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. Hearts are broken. Sweet relationships are dead. Affections have been uprooted. Selfish and inconsiderate habits have kept the home in turmoil. We feel a man is unthinking when he says that sobriety is enough. He is like the farmer who came up out of his cyclone cellar, to find his home ruined. To the wife he remarked, "Don't see anything the matter here, Ma. Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?"
Yeah, what a paragraph. I've had a number of people that will identify with this paragraph, especially with the first sentence, is the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring his way through the lives of others. And you've got to remember that that's what we're talking about. It's what you've done to others, and what you are responsible for. Hearts are broken. Sweet relationships are broken or dead in this case. And it's going to take time and energy and effort to repair and rekindle some of those relationships and that type of thing. But it's not enough. It really is not enough just to stop drinking. That's really the message here. You have torn through your life. You've torn through other people's lives. They're all injured or damaged in some manner or fashion because of things that you've done or said. And now it's time for you to look around and say, okay, the house is flattened, but I've got the skill set now to know how to rebuild this, and I've got a foundation I can start it on. And then you turn about and start building that house again. Rob?
We're at the top of page 83, everybody. Yes, there's a long period of reconstruction ahead. We must take the lead. A remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fit the bill at all. We had to sit down with the family and frankly analyze the past as we now see it, being very careful not to criticize them. Their defects may be glaring, but the chances are that our own actions are partly responsible. So we clean house with the family, asking each morning in meditation that our Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love.
Yeah, and there's a couple of three questions that I think that is important for you to maybe identify with. They don't have to be specific to this. I'm going to review them here in just a second. But it is something that you might want to take down and think about, because it is a good way to kind of bring into this. It's not, remember, an amend isn't just saying I'm sorry. That's really not the amend. In fact, it's really far from it. The idea here is that somebody may not be looking for an apology. They may be looking for something else. And for you to just blurt out an apology might be a little bit short-sighted on your part. So first and foremost, here's a couple of three questions to think about when you're actually sitting down with the family and friends and you're looking at to making amends. One, are there any more harms I'm unaware of? Are there any more harms I'm unaware of? And that's really important, because you may think you know what's wrong, but you may not know. And if they're open and honest with you, they may give you some insight as to something additional or different that you might be they feel like that you've done that you can make an amend for. Second question would be is, do you need to tell me how this hurt you? And sometimes people just need to talk. They need to vent and really talk about what it was that hurt them and how it hurt them. And that really gives you some really good insight. When you've got somebody willing to talk to you at that level, you've got something special to work with, because that's good information. The third question you could ask is there anything I can do to fix it? And we are in and I'll just put a disclaimer there, anything legal or appropriate that you can do to fix it. So obviously we don't want to do anything illegal or inappropriate that would cause more harm or bring harm or damage to the situation. But three, is there anything I can do to fix it? And this is where you find out maybe all they do is say, hey, just apologize and I'm good. Or make restitution. I really wish you would pay me back for X, Y, or Z. Or three, I want you to do this and I don't want you to do that. And please, going forward, just this. And in a rare case, there's a situation they may say that I just don't want to hear from you ever again. Just leave me alone. And enough is enough. And the harm was just too great for them to want to deal and or face you anymore. It is a possibility. So that's important when you're sitting down. Again, it is about the family, but it's also about friends and other relationships that you've got that you need to kind of think about this. Okay, Rob.
Okay, saying sorry is an apology, and amends is restitution to put things back the way they were. I love Bill's analogy of the fence. If I'm driving along the road and I take down your fence, me coming up to your door and say, hey, you know what, I knocked down your fence, I'm sorry about it, and walking away, it's not an amends. I'm saying sorry. I have to put it back the way it was, whether I pay somebody to do it or whether I actually get out there with my spiritual kit of tools and my hammer and my nails and I put it back together. The idea is that we try to make things right. We try to put it back the way it was before. In this book, they do not talk about living amends. They talk about direct face-to-face amends. And I'm going to post, we've already talked about the different amends on how to go to an enemy, a creditor, criminal, alimony, business, domestic. We've talked a little bit here about family. And we're going to talk about people we can't see. So I'll be putting that all in the chat, just, the page numbers, et cetera, to make it a little bit easier for you. But also there's something here that really sticks out to me. So we clean house with the family each morning in meditation, that our Creator shows that we have patience, tolerance, kindliness, and love. I constantly say those things all through the day. Okay, when I'm standing in line and somebody's taking a little bit longer in front of me than I would care for, I ask for patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. I have the time. A minute is not going to make or break my day. And so I just keep saying to myself, patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. If somebody needs to get in front of me when I'm driving, let them in front. I can try to cut them off and, say, no, they're not getting in front of me. But what have I accomplished? Nothing. Remember, we're God conscious now. Okay. We're trying to do, what would God have me do in this situation? It's not what does Rob want in this situation anymore. It's what does God want from me? God wants me to be kind to people, to make their day a little bit easier. Art said something that I have taken to heart. And what Art said was, he asks each day that he can add value to other people's lives. So he can be an asset instead of an ass. Which makes so much sense to me. How can I be of value to other people today? If I let you in, it's not going to hurt me. But I've done you a favor. Maybe you're in a hurry. Maybe somebody is sick in your family. I don't know. But it's not going to harm me. Getting in line at a grocery store and somebody has a few less items than me, let them go in front. Or one of the greatest things that I've ever seen, you ever gone to the drive-through coffee and they'd say to you, it's been taken care of, the person in front of you paid for it. Wow. How do you feel when somebody has done something as simple as that? There are little things we can do all through the day to help other people. Smiling, be kind, considerate, be polite, put our shopping cart back. It's simple things, people. Keep that in mind. The spiritual life is not a theory. We have to live it. Unless one's family expresses a desire to live upon spiritual principles, we think we ought not to urge them. We should not talk incessantly to them about spiritual matters. They will change in time. Our behavior will convince them more than our words. We must remember that 10 or 20 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone.
And a skeptic for a while. It's not just overnight kind of thing. And as much as I wanted to be the 2-week wonder where I had 2 weeks of sobriety and everybody was supposed to forgive me and forget about everything, that was certainly something I had to get over for myself. But the spiritual life is not a theory. We're not talking about something in just esoteric terms. We're really talking about something that you have to apply and live within your life. But at the same time, you don't want to push it on everybody else. The fact is your behavior, not your words, and this is a very important point, are going to be the things that show others that you have changed. And again, much like when we find an alcoholic that is sober and it has been sober for a while, has a good life, or at least appears that they're happy, they're kind of free of everything, and they're just upbeat, and you kind of say, I want what they have. Same thing holds true here. If your behavior has changed and you're living a spiritual life and it's full of happiness, fun, and goodness, then other people are going to want to have that as well. And that's when they're kind of at that point of being receptive to starting to live that life. And it'll happen over time, or it won't, but that doesn't mean that you can't do what you need to do in order to be living a spiritual life. But again, 10 or 20 or 30 years of drunkenness would make a skeptic out of anyone. Absolutely. They're going to be testing, they're going to be expecting you to do this over a long period of time, and it can take a while. It really can take a while. and patience, I think, is something that you need to develop with regard to your sobriety and your spiritual life. Rob?
Our behavior will convince them more than our words. Don't tell me, show me. Show me that you've changed. Remember, family members around us, they've seen this act before, where you've quit drinking and you're trying to get into a new way of living. Okay. Our actions speak louder than our words. Our words are hollow. We've said so many things to people before. Show me. And you know what? Remember when Bill first saw Eddie at his door, he noticed something different about him. Something had changed. He noticed it in his eyes. Okay? Something had changed. And Bill was intrigued to find out what exactly it was. He was a guy who was a hopeless drunk who was going to be locked up forever, put in an asylum. Who knows, lobotomy, shock treatments, who knows exactly. But Bill noticed something had changed him. So keep that in mind. There may be some wrongs we can never fully right. We don't worry about them if we can honestly say to ourselves that we would right them if we could. Some people cannot be seen. We send them an honest letter, and there may be a valid reason for postponement in some cases, but we don't delay if it can be avoided. We should be sensible, tactful, considerate, and humble without being servile or scraping. As God's people, we stand on our feet. We don't crawl before anyone.
Absolutely. And there's a good point to be made here. Some amends and some people are just not approachable and or available for whatever reason. And the idea here is that you still have to be willing to make that amend immediately upon an opportunity presenting itself and it being able to do so. And in those cases where you're just not going to be able to be face to face or say on the phone, something like that you might have a live conversation with someone, a good, heartfelt, genuine letter is going to go a long way in the making that amend. Now, there is the point that you're going to try and make amend based on what you believe and what you know as to being the harm that you may have created. And remember, the questions we had just asked here just previously might not be answered at that point. And you might craft the letter in an effort to try to elicit a response and just ask some of those questions. But you can look at the harms you made, make some somewhat educated assumptions, weave in those questions in there as well, just so that if there is any dialogue to be had, put your phone number in there, that kind of thing. Give them every opportunity to respond in some manner or fashion, and you should be able to at least say that you did everything that you could in order to make that amend with that person that you may or may not be able to get to. So the other thing that they talking here is that, you stand on your feet. We don't crawl before anyone. The idea here is not so much to be, with your tail between your legs and kind of, meekly, approaching somebody. The idea here is that you want to be kind of upright, in good spirits and confident, and showing that your sobriety has got some positive results, and you want to share that positiveness with this other person, and in that you want to make the amend that you can if they're willing to allow you to do so. Rod?
Here we go to the promises.
Yeah.
If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we're halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, They will always materialize if we work for them.
Absolutely. And those are so important, almost worth looking back at these as individual promises as we go along. Just as a note, up until this point, we're talking about the preparation of making amends. And the idea here is, thank you, Rob, for putting those into the chat. So the actual promises are right there, guys. It's a misnomer out there to say that once you hit your step 9, you're immediately supposed to start doing your amends. The fact is that we're in a preparatory phase. We are actually getting ready to do our amends. And in where the point is that you start doing your step 9 is when you've gotten to your step 11 and you're working your step 11. If you're doing your step 11 appropriately and regularly, then you are in fact ready and able to do your step 9. And that's when you actually start your step 9, because what you're doing in the morning in your meditation is asking, what is the next right thing to do? How am I supposed to need to conduct my day? And what are the things that need to be accomplished today in order to be, successful? And that's when you say, okay, today I'm going to call and talk to Rob, and I'm going to ask him the questions that I've asked, or we talked about. I'm gonna talk with him, see if he'll open up, and if I can make an amend to this, to him as far as that goes. And then you go about doing that, and you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. That's just one of those statements that has come true almost 100% of the time. The idea is that no matter how you approach your amends, and there's different techniques and ways of doing it. Some people like to go with their most difficult amends first. They want to get the hard stuff out of the way, and others want to start with the easy ones and kind of work up, gain some confidence and build on that in order to do what they need to do. Apologize, folks. My pages just closed and I lost my place here. I'm back. So this is also a testament to the relationship that you have with your higher power. So really, this is when you're talking to your higher power. You're really looking for that guidance. You're gaining that strength and that confidence that you need in order to face some of these people that you have hurt and or made harms to, and you want to make sure that you're ready to go. And again, I can't overemphasize enough, if you're really doing a good step 11, you are in a great place to be doing your step 9. Step 9 should be when you've practiced, you've prepared, and you're ready to go. You're it'll show in your amend as to how thoughtful you are with regard to it. And I don't think that these are extravagant promises. We've said this time and again. It's just sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And kind of your step 9 is one of those that's kind of a lifelong journey. I think that sometimes it takes, you might get through your list within a year or two, but then there's others that you're going to remember and or think about that might take even longer. As far as that goes. But the other thing too, and again, I bring this up, is patience is important. Just kind of work with it. Take each one of the amends and treat it with the utmost respect in the person that you're going to make it with. Rob?
Yeah, if you take a look, the promises are the opposite of the bedevilments. We read the bedevilments on page 52. And the bedevilments are, I can't make a go at life. Everything is going to heck in a handbag, and then we take a look, 20 pages later, and the promises. If you haven't taken a look at the bedevilments against the promises, I have a little mem that I can send out to you. So I'll put my email in the chat at the end, and I can send you that. It's a great little reminder of how life can change right around. This thought brings us to step 10, which suggests we continue to take personal inventory, and continue to set right any new mistakes as we go along. We vigorously commence this way of living as we cleaned up the past. We have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone. Then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code.
Okay, there's something special about this particular paragraph that we just read. Essentially, all 12 steps are involved in this paragraph. If you'll work with me here for just a second, I'll try to identify as best I can what we're doing here. But any new mistakes that we made is really kind of a testament to our step one. And we have entered the world of the spirit is our step two. Then our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness, which should be our step three. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear is our step four. Cleaning up the past is our step 9. That's back up at the top. And then when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. That's going to be your step 6 and 7. We discuss them with someone immediately and make amends quickly if we have harmed anyone, which is a step 5. And then we have resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help, which is going to be part of our step 8 and 9. And then when you actually get to your love and tolerance of others, combined with the sentence before that, that would be your step 12. So quite a few steps in there. It's kind of interesting when you try to break down these sentences and the thought behind them. It's kind of amazing that it can only, in one paragraph, we can outline pretty much the entire program and doing it in so eloquently with just a few sentences. But that's what's important here. You're kind of living all the steps all the time. And really, if you're doing your steps 11 and 12, if you think about it, then you're doing what you need to be doing in order to achieve all of the steps all of the time. But that's important as well. Rob?
Yeah, and here Bill always, the one thing I love about Bill's writing, he always gives us an out. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. He knows we're going to make mistakes, but he gives us, what should we do when we make a mistake? We fix it right away. We don't let it go on. We don't let it fester. Remember, resentment is our number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. So therefore, we don't want resentments to build up. So therefore, we deal with it right away. When these things crop up, who do we ask to remove it? God. All throughout the day, if I'm having fear, God, take this away now so that I don't have to live in fear. Okay, I don't have to, be mad at people. I don't have to deal with it. Take it away now. I might have to pray a few times, but I pause, I ask God to remove it, and I get on with my life. Remember, the whole idea is to take self out of the equation. Okay, when we wake up in the morning, step 11. Okay, take self out of the equation so that I can be God conscious, so I can do God's work, so I can fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people around me. And that's what this is all about. On page 63, perform his work well. I want to do God's work. I want to be God's vessel, his agent, to help him with other people, to make other people's day a little bit easier, to make it a little bit more special, so that when they wake up on the wrong side of the bed, or they're having trouble in their life, that I make their day just a little bit easier, not more difficult. So I'm taking self out of the equation. When I make a mistake, I fix it right away. And we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We are act sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been giving us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. That is the miracle of it. We're not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we have been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem is being removed. It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. That is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition.
And that is a great definition for being recovered. If anyone's to ever ask you if you've actually recovered from alcoholism, this is a great paragraph to refer to, because it basically describes exactly what it is to be recovered. So, are you recovered at this point? Yes. If you can answer yes to the things that are in this paragraph, if you can live the things that are in this paragraph, and if you can do and be a part of everything that's in this paragraph, then you are in fact a recovered alcoholic. And that's what's so neat about this. So this is a great place to kind of make a mark. Ask yourself where you are. Talk to yourself privately and honestly and openly about this this paragraph. And if you basically identify with this in some manner or fashion, doesn't have to be specific and perfect, but just close enough, then you can actually say that you've recovered from alcoholism. All right, Rob.
Yeah, and the whole idea is that this is how we react so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. If we keep in fit spiritual condition, and that is the big kicker right there. It is easy to let up on this spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. We're headed for trouble if we do, for alcohol is a subtle foe. We're not cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. Every day is a day when we must carry the vision of God's will into all our activities. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. These are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will.
Exactly. And this is important too. When it says rest on our laurels, we're not going to rely solely upon our past accomplishments. I mean, the past accomplishments should be something that you remember. It's something that you build on, and it's something that you carry with you and move forward, but you have to be looking forward. You have to be taking the confidence and the goodwill that is created by your sobriety, your recovery, and the amends that you're making. And then obviously the way that you're living your life is a complete change. It's different. It is something to behold, just to say it in the way that it probably should be said. If you're not, if you decide that all of a sudden you're good to go and everything is fine, and you find yourself going back to your old ways, you're in trouble. You're in definite trouble. And I have heard time and again people say that they kind of got to a point, they were recovered and they were moving through life and everything, and then all of a sudden thoughts started creeping back into their mind. The temptation started to mount and ramp up, and they were finding themselves back to some of their old ways with people. And the next thing you know, they're struggling with the fact that they're now fighting the idea of having a drink or not having a drink. And it is just as they said, it's a subtle foe, and it's a powerful one. So you're not cured of alcoholism, and I guess maybe that's a good distinction here I'm trying to make. You're not cured of alcoholism. You're always going to be an alcoholic, but you have recovered from alcoholism, and you do this on a daily basis. Remember, meditation in the morning, living your life like you're supposed to throughout the day and evening, doing the prayer and review of your day, and then working with others, trying to carry the message forward as best you can when you can, and that's the maintenance that you have to perform on a daily basis in order to stay strong, stay focused, and keep that subtle foe at bay and away with where you are.
Yeah, You know, the we can rest on our laurels. A lot of times in the fellowship, I used to hear people that had quite a bit of sobriety. I've done that ever since I came into the rooms. Let somebody else, let one of the newcomers do it. You know, I'm just going to sit back and take it easy. You know, they should be doing all the work. That's where we get to the point. You know, Tony, who does the big book studies for the Keystone Group, he's been doing it for 33 years. They keep asking him, why do you keep doing it? He goes, because it keeps me sober. He says he's never met anyone that has thoroughly followed this program that has failed. Never. But what happens is that I always put my fingers together. This is me, this is my spirituality. Okay, my connection to my higher power. If I stop doing the things that have kept me sober, slowly it's gonna slowly pull away. Now, I do not know at what point that I pull away that I'm going to lose my spiritual connection. I have no idea. I don't want to take a chance on even finding out, to be honest with you. Why? I will never be cured of alcoholism because I always have the allergy. What I'm trying to do is get it to get the malady to be dormant so that I have no thought of taking that first drink. Remember, we have no defense against that first drink. Our defense must come from a higher power. So therefore, if I keep my spiritual connection, I'm not going to have those voices in my head saying, take a drink. It's going to be okay. It's going to be different this time. So, how best can I serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. Constantly saying that during the day. What should I be doing, God? What will do you have for me today? It is the proper use of the will. Much has already been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from Him who has all knowledge and power. If we have carefully followed His directions, we have begun to sense the flow of His Spirit into us. To some extent, we have become God conscious. We have begun to develop this vital sixth sense, but we must go further, and that means more action.
A lot more action. This is a pivoting point for you in your development in your life. So just take it as it is. It's something that's important there. And the other thing here is that we're not this isn't these aren't really suggestions, other than they are really assertive guidelines. And I think it's important to kind of take it that way. If we have carefully followed directions, okay, so there is a good prescription in this book, and it's something that you can follow as closely, if not exactly as it's laid out. There has been a ton of success with doing so. And as you're doing that, you're gonna feel different. You're gonna feel different. You're gonna be different. You're gonna act differently. There's all kinds of things that are going to be indicators to show that you're actually doing this, and it will give you the indication you're looking for to make sure that you are, especially when the first thought in your mind that comes to is about the other person and not about yourself. That is a wonderful place to be. What is it this person needs or wants? Is there something I can do to make that possible? And you know, how can I best serve thee? It's how can I best serve the individual as well? And you're going to be thinking about that. You're going to be hearing thoughts are going to start to come in. Better ideas about how to proceed are going to come in. And then at the same time, this is kind of the precursor going into the more action. And here's where we are. We're going to talk a little bit more about the step 11 here. And that's kind of what we're doing. But we've already been talking about doing our step 11. So this is going to be a nice review for us. And I also want to say that this is really the only step that we do every day, and it's an important one to follow fairly closely to the prescribed way of doing it. Your morning meditation, talking to yourself about what is the next right thing to do throughout the day, and then that evening thought and prayer and review of your day, and finding and thinking and doing what could be done better the next day. Rob?
Step 11 suggests prayer and meditation. We shouldn't be shy on this matter of prayer. Better men than we are using it constantly. It works if we have the proper attitude and work at it. It would be easy to be vague about this matter, yet we believe we can make some definite and valuable suggestions. When we retire at night, we constructively review our day. Were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? Have we kept something to ourselves which should be discussed with another person at once? Were we kind and loving toward all? What could we have done better? Were we thinking of ourselves most of the time? Or were we thinking of what we could do for others, of what we could pack into the stream of life? But we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflections, for that would diminish our usefulness to others. After making a review, we ask God forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken.
Yeah. So one of the important notes here is that when we retire at night, so this is something you'll do just prior to going to bed, and really kind of reviewing your day and looking at it. One of the important things in here, and there's several questions you can ask yourself. We won't necessarily review each one of them, but it basically is saying, okay, what did I do today? How did I do something wrong, or is there something that I owe an apology for? Is there something I can do better going forward, and learn from those mistakes that are going to be made? But the important thing here is that we must be careful not to drift into worry, remorse, or morbid reflection. The fact is, do not, and repeat it, do not be too hard on yourself. If you are trying and working hard in regards to doing the right thing, then that's good. That's good enough. And you should know that you're going to make mistakes. But if your heart is in the right place, then it's something that you should be able to look at, reflect on, make whatever adjustments that are necessary, and then move forward. And ask for that forgiveness. You get the forgiveness and you move on. All right. We don't have to carry it anymore. You just don't have to carry it anymore. And that's a hard thing to do for us, especially if we're people that are being very hard on ourselves about things. The fact is that it's going to be an exercise that you're going to have to work with, and you're going to have to try to let go of. And it might take some practice. In fact, for me, I will tell you, it does take practice. From time to time, I will dwell on something, especially if I've made a mistake that, was a silly one, and but it did do some harm or damage, and it seems to be lasting a little bit. I'm kind of hard on myself with regard to that, and gosh darn it, can't do that again. And I kind of dwell on it a little bit. The idea here is to be able to let it go and give it up and move forward, and just try not to make that same mistake again. Rob?
That's what I love about this stuff. It's the growth. The idea is that we're growing. We're getting better all the time. It's not a maintenance step. It's a growth step. We are constantly trying to get better. We will never be perfect. So we're always reviewing our day, constructively reviewing it, which means we're taking a look at it in a constructive manner, not in order to beat ourselves up, but so that we can get better at it. When we retire at night, where were we resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid? Do we owe an apology? These are things that are normal, a normal day. Remember, problems are going to come up. Things are going to come up. We're not perfect. We are going to make mistakes. The whole idea is that where could I have done better? Where can I bring God into it before things go off the rail? How to diffuse things before they cause problems? Somebody said, do you want to be in a car accident, or do you want to miss the car accident? And that's the way I look at it, is that, it's a simple thing, but you know what? If I'm aware of certain things and I can practice the pause, and I always bring up the pause because been an incredible thing to me. I have a habit of saying things out loud to people that I think are humorous at times, but can be cutting. Some people take it okay, some people don't. And the whole idea is that I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but these comments would sometimes hurt people's feelings. So now I practice the pause. Is it kind? Is it considerate? Is it worth it? Is it honest? These are the gates of truth that we can talk about. But the idea is practice the pause so I don't hurt people. Okay. Just take that moment. Okay. So that I'm not in that car accident. So I'm not at odds with people. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. We consider our plans for the day. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be a divorce from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. Under these conditions, we can employ our mental faculties with assurance, for after all, God gave us brains to use. Our thought life will be placed on a much higher plane when our thinking is cleared of wrong motives. In thinking about our day, we may face indecision, may not be able to determine which course to take. Here we ask God for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. We relax and take it easy. We don't struggle. We're often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's important here, and I'll just reiterate, this is where you actually sit down and you plan out your step 9 and do your step 9. It is in the morning when you're sitting down and you're looking out at the next 24 hours. What are the things that you're going to try to accomplish? How best to do that? This is when you do your step 9. And the other part of this is that, often surprised how the right answers come after we have tried this for a while, and that is Andrew, making sure that your own house is in order, so your side of the street is clean, and that's important as well. You're going to face some indecision. They may not be able to determine which course to take, but that's okay. Just try, and sometimes it'll be a trial and error kind of thing. It's okay. This is a process, and not a perfect one at that. You're going to do a little bit here and there, and you're going to find out that certain things work better for you personally. They're going to work better for you because you're just attuned to it, and that's something that you're going to want to capitalize on as well. All right, we're at about 12:52. Rob, why don't we bring Bill in for just a few minutes, and we'll use this as our stopping point, and we'll finish up into action at our next meeting.
Sounds fantastic. Thanks, Leo. Bill?
Hi, this is Bill, alcoholic from New Jersey. Am I unmuted?
No, you're unmuted, Bill.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I can't tell. Okay, thanks a lot, Leo and Rob. Good job here. We're talking about, we started off with some of the amends that we were making, and basically what Bill was telling us here, he's giving us some instruction, some suggestion on how to make different amends, and on page 82, it said twice here, sobriety is not enough. Sometimes people think that just getting sober, just putting the plug in the jug is enough. That's not amends. If you take the rum out of a fruitcake, you still have a fruitcake. We still have to go further. There's things that we have to do to make amends. Just stopping drinking is not amends. Like the guy that came up out of the cellar and said, "Ain't it grand the wind stopped blowing?" That doesn't do anything. Just because we stopped all the damage doesn't mean that we fixed anything. Amends means to repair the damage that you did. That's basically what he's talking about. And it says on one page here, remorseful mumbling that we are sorry won't fill the bill at all. I'm sorry is not an amends. I'm sorry is an expression of regret for a wrongdoing. Amends means to fix the damage that you did. Like Rob mentioned, if you crash into a fence, you don't say, "Sorry, fence." You have to repair the fence or pay someone else to repair it. That's what amends is. And then we talked about some people that can't be seen. Yeah, you have to remember when we're making amends, there's some people that are going to be gone, some people that we may not even know who they are or whatever. And if you can't make amends, as long as you're honestly willing to make amends, the book says don't worry about it. The guy upstairs knows what's in your heart. And if you're willing to do this, you will get the spiritual benefit out of it. And one of the most important things that I can think of when it comes to making amends to somebody is you've got to use a sponsor. somebody who's been through this process before. Because the last thing we want to do is harm someone or someone else in the process of making amends, because then that's going to neutralize your amends. You know, and we have to live this. We just can't say I'm sorry or just try to fix something and keep doing what we're doing. What good is it if I make amends for something that I keep continuing to do? Amends doesn't count. I neutralized my amends by doing the same thing again over and over and over again. Well, we have to make some kind of progress here. We have to get better. And then he gives us a bunch of promises here. Basically, this is telling us what's going to happen when we're halfway through this phase of our development. What phase of our development? The phase of making amends. When we're halfway through with this amends process, we're supposed to get all of these promises in here. Then we moved into step 10. And step 10 says, continue to take personal inventory. The word continue is used 4 times in this first paragraph. That means keep on doing it. And basically what step 10 comes down to, it's a mini 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. In other words, what Bill is trying to tell us in this book is you went through 4 through 9, and you're starting to get better. You're getting these promises. Your life is coming back into order. Keep doing it. You don't stop. You keep doing this. That doesn't mean you have to walk around with a pad and pencil and constantly be taking inventory. What you're supposed to do when something crops up, when some kind of a problem happens, or you think you're going to do something that's going to cause a problem, you're supposed to take a mental inventory real quick, run it through your head. You know, is it selfish? Is it dishonest? Is it resentful? Or is it fearful? And if any of those things crop up, you ask God at once to remove them. And you discuss them with someone immediately. And if you did something wrong, you make amends for it quickly. That's all. Those are saying, keep doing this stuff. This stuff is what helps you get better. Keep on doing it. In other words, this isn't a one and done deal. This is an ongoing process and it says right in here, we're supposed to continue it for our lifetime. If you're a diabetic and you go to the doctor and he gives you insulin, you don't take one shot of insulin and then you're good forever. You have to take your medicine every single day. And this is our medicine. This is the medicine for alcoholism. And like Leo described, the promises from step 10, that's basically a description of being recovered. This is what happens once we go through this process and we're recovered. We will get what all these promises in here in step 10 say. And then at the end of it, he said, if we have carefully followed directions, we have begun to flow the sense of his flow of his spirit into us. In other words, he's using the word directions now. He used the word suggestions in the beginning of the book. Now he's calling it directions. He's getting a little more aggressive. In other words, he's telling us we need to do this stuff. It's not something that's just suggested. If you want to get better, you need to do it. And then he goes into step 11. And basically step 11 says when we retire at night. That's where step 11 begins. And it continues on awakening. In other words, we start step 11 at night before we go to bed. We check over our day. What did we do? In other words, did I do step 10 correctly today? Did any of this stuff crop up and did I ask God to take it away? And we're double checking ourselves with step 11 at night. And then we continue step 11 when we wake up in the morning, and we continue it all throughout the day until we go to bed again. In other words, step 11, we use it all day long, all during our waking hours. If you can do step 11 when you're sleeping, then do it when you're sleeping too. I don't know if I can do that, but the whole time I'm awake, I'm supposed to be in step 11. That's basically what it's telling us here. And it's telling us basically we need to ask God for help because we don't have enough power to get through all of this alcoholism stuff by ourselves. We have to ask God's help. And that's basically what we're doing. That's all. And it's not a real big deal. It's not real hard. All you got to do when you wake up in the morning, you say please. When you go to bed at night, say thank you. And if you need help during the day, you pause and you ask God for help. It's that simple. That's all I got. Thanks a lot for letting me share.
Thank you, Bill. That was wonderful. And thank you, Rob. Thanks, everybody, for being here. Let's close out with the Serenity Prayer.
You got it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Excellent.